finance was the thing to do. You hit the nail on the head, right? Especially back when I was in college. I didn't even know what consulting was at that time. I was like, I don't have any skills. Who's going to listen to me on what I'm consulting on? So when I was in college, that's when I developed my first entrepreneurial endeavor. It was a basketball training applications with 4 of my buddies from school. When you actually put yourself out there, whether it be your brand, whether it be a company, things just happen.
Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. #Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. And of course, now and always, keep hustling. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Mickey Abbatiello. Mickey, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, man.
There's two bucket list items happening right now on the KHP. First and foremost, this has been the most difficult, most rescheduled episode. So I really appreciate you sticking with me and making it happen. But also, I don't know if when I started this or when our loyal listeners listen to the show, they ever thought you should be watching this, by the way, because it's far more entertaining, that we would have someone named Mickey with a Mickey drawing behind them
Look at
in the picture. So this is like, I don't know who's the more famous Mickey, but we haven't had the other one in the KHP, so that mouse can go jump in a lake, and we're happy to have you here today.
that. Exactly. Yeah. One of my goals is, how great would it be for me to become the CEO of Disney one day and be named Mickey? Like that's my ultimate vision here, right?
By the way, I don't think you need any further qualifications. Like
I know, right? I think I should just get the job, right?
I'm totally behind this. Like, hey, I don't know. There'll be a bunch of Donalds. I mean, I can be Goofies. Like people will start naming their kids Goofy just so that they can get a job. But we digress. Your story is an amazing one, and I tell everyone, I tell all of our listeners every single week, read the bio because we don't go into deep bios here. We get through most of it or most of the journey or a lot of the journey as part of the podcast. But everybody should read the bio because, as I just mentioned before we went in the air, traditional path of I want to know where you grew up, but hey, we're going to go to college, presumably. We're going to go into finance because if you're not going to be a lawyer, doctor, Italian parents and Jewish parents are the same. At least go into finance, touch money somehow. And then, in my opinion, which we'll get to, things just completely go off the rails, which I love in the best possible way for a hustle, but completely go off the rails. So first, like, how did you get into that? And then what made you, when you were in that regular 9 to 5 or probably more than 9 to 5 job, want to be an entrepreneur and do something totally different?
Yeah. So, it's funny. I went to Baruch College and played basketball there. So going into the traditional path, I knew I wasn't going to make it to the NBA being 6 foot tall and not being able to do much on the basketball court compared to the others in the bigger schools. But finance was the thing to do. You hit the nail on the head, right? Especially back when I was in college, that was where the money was, and everybody kind of always position their career to think about money is the most important thing. And I think we'll probably get into it over the course of this episode. It's not always the determining factor in finding the best place for what work you want to do and where your passion is. So I kind of just got into finance because that was the thing to do. And Baruch was a great finance school. So just from an education perspective, it kind of married up my basketball needs and also just my educational needs of just getting a quality 4-year education. So it was just something that you got pushed into. And I remember when I first joined EY was my first job at a college. I was also at another small advisory shop that I was just cold calling all day. I hated it. And then I remember my dad was able to kind of get me a hookup at EY to be in their rotational program. And I didn't even know what consulting was at that time. I was like, I don't have any skills. Who's going to listen to me on what I'm consulting on? But I was really appreciative of my early EY career because they just teach you how to be an awesome, efficient, hard worker and be able to have that sales experience in the first part of your career is definitely beneficial. Of how to deal with clients, how to communicate, how to present your thoughts is something that I just felt EY makes great quality, especially in the consulting as in general, is just a great place to start to kind of hone your skill sets around PowerPoint, Excel, and all the tools that you normally use in corporate. So
And I think also,
get into it.
it's funny because like people ask me if I could change anything in my career in the insurance advisory space, what would I do? And my answer is really has always been the same, and that is, I wish that I was able to spend some time on the inside of a large insurance carrier for two reasons. One, I think also in consulting, when you learn the guts of business, I knew I wanted to be in insurance. So
Yeah,
when you go to the largest partner that you're working with, you're going to learn the inside. Obviously, it helps you negotiate. But I also think that even people who believe that they want to be entrepreneurs and want to do something or want to work in small businesses, there's something that large companies offer. And some people thrive in that. Some people will start at the bottom and become the COO, and it's the greatest story, and they'll be there for 40 years, and that's great. But even for the people that don't, even for the people who say, my ultimate goal is to start my own company, my ultimate goal is to go into a family business, my ultimate goal is to do something else, learning how to interact with people, learning how to interact with different departments,
of course.
probably looking at some of the financials or analyses that you had to do as your career progressed at EY and some of the clients you were working on. I imagine that even if it wasn't active, like this is a skill that I want to build, like you're saying,
Yeah, yeah,
PowerPoint and Excel, young people should realize that there's value in that. And
100%. 100%.
don't say big corporate America is the devil, because honestly, probably the best entrepreneurs and small business owners and managers that most of these people want to work for probably became that way because they had at least some experience, internship, early career, things like that in
Yeah,
large
around
companies.
managing people, right? The companies are huge organizations. How do you think about the cross-functional management and just getting to the right people and dealing with other personalities, right? There's many different personalities in a corporate world that need to learn how to navigate, and also there's a lot of people to learn from. So there's a lot more pool of mentors that you can kind of guide your career on. And the entrepreneurship side, my dad he owned one of the first ever hip hop clubs in the Bronx. So he's an entrepreneur, and that's where I got a lot of my
Did Jenny
hustle.
from the Bronx hang out there?
That this was in the 70s.
Oh,
So
okay.
this was early days, but then he had different clubs throughout the years with Fat Joe, Wu Tang, but even before that, Run DMC did their first show there. So he was always a hustler, and
East
that's why
Coast.
I get all my stuff from him. He's my best friend, so he's owned clubs and different. He does promotions all over the city. So my entrepreneurial was always in my blood. So when I was in college, that's when I developed my first entrepreneurial endeavor. It was a basketball training applications with four of my buddies from school, and it
I
was
love and hate everything about it.
yeah,
Like I love it because it's a great success story and I want to dig into that. But I absolutely hate when I see something that I maybe probably could have should have done. Like, okay, you're gonna tell me it was rocket science, it was revolutionary, we came
yeah.
up with the greatest thing ever. No, no,
It wasn't.
you
It
just did
wasn't.
it.
What was so fun? Yeah, we just did it. And it was funny. I'll never forget that day. And it was kind of like I feel like a hustle story too. Is my buddy Mike Dietz came into the locker room one day, and it was around Christmas time when the school was off, but we were still practicing. And he got like the new iPad, which was like one of the first iPads that came out, and the App Store was on there. And we just happened to be looking through the App Store, and we were very confused that there was not a lot of basketball oriented apps. And the first one was from the professor from the N1 team, dating those days back, and it was like shooting free throws and doing crazy dribbling, and we were like, there's nothing really like what we would use to really hone our skills. So we all looked at each other like, should we develop an app? And we're like, yeah, pumped up. And then we are like, we have no clue
All
what
right.
we just said and how we would do this. And then it took us down a track. Luckily, Baruch at the time just launched their app, and we went through the grapevines of the school to see who developed their app, and then we actually just went and did it, and it opened up. We were so many funny stories. We shot all the videos ourselves in Baruch College. Probably didn't get any copyrights for that one, so they helped us there. But it was so funny. We were in all the videos. We were using our finance textbooks to like hold up the camera because we were too cheap to buy a stand or whatever. So it was funny. We got one of our teammates, didn't pay him anything, and did all the videos for us and made him make every shot, which took us hours to film. So we have so many great stories and so many things we did wrong. We did everything wrong.
But it fueled the entrepreneurial fire.
Yes,
And I think that there's something. First of all, I love what you said about your father because the irony or the funny part about entrepreneurship with people I think in your and my generation is our a lot of our parents were and are entrepreneurs. Your father, entrepreneurial hustle. Yet, I presume that he didn't want you to go into his business. He didn't want you to follow in his footsteps. Meaning, what he wanted you to do was go to college, get the stable job, don't run clubs, don't do
Yeah,
promotions. Yet, the greatest impact that he had on your hustle, and I always say, I've said it probably 95% of the episodes of the Keep Hustling podcast, is the greatest influence that parents and mentors have on their children are the things that they don't actually try or want to teach them. Meaning what you see, what we see,
yeah,
what you serve.
observe.
And and then that fuels the entrepreneurial fire when really what we were lectured on or you were lectured on was go to college, get the job at EY, go through this path, don't do what I do or what I did. Yet the end of the circle is he's probably super proud and loves that and loves the hustle because that's really where he is. He's
Yeah,
not a 9 to 5 guy.
yeah,
So
for
it's just funny how like all that plays out with people in our generation with, Italians and Jews are very similar. So it's,
Yeah, and it's so funny too because he would never ever in his right mind think about doing a 9 to 5. He's like, I like to go to my kids' games. He was a big sports guy, so my brother was a big sports baseball player, so he always liked going to our games and coaching, and his schedule was able to do that, right? Because he's up from 9 to 5 in the morning, and he gets to come during the day and do the school stuff when we're out, and then he goes to work at night. And yeah, over the time, I also just stayed with him. I do a lot of his, we have one of the largest hip hop archives. So my entrepreneurial stuff with him turned into I uh, I pretty much digitized this whole thing. He was a hoarder, so he saved everything from the '70s. I mean, I have, like I said, Run DMC's first ever performance, a picture of it. We have video footage, the Fat Boys, Curtis Blow. We have flyers from Nas when he did his first performance, Biggie, and he has a great archive, and we do a lot of stuff with the Hip Hop Museum. So any of his special projects, I tag on just because I'm interested in the space and obviously his legacy. So I definitely keep the hustle with him in some capacity. He couldn't push me away too much.
just because you said he was your best friend and and your mentor, can you help me get him on the pod on
Oh
the
yeah,
KHP?
he's a character. You think
We
Mario's a character?
we gotta.
He's
By the way,
he's
shout
awesome.
out to I think it was episode 2 or 3 of the Keep Hustling podcast. Your cousin, my good friend and mentor, Mario Trotter, who hooked us up.
Yes,
The marketing monk. Everybody should check him out, and he's been really a great mentor on this. But I would love to have, and we could do it in one of the clubs. You could do it in the studio. I would love to meet him. And also, like, it's crazy. All that hoarding. This is a tangent. We'll get back to your story, but like all that hoarding, the value that you have. Main DMC's first performance, they haven't called you and said they want every single napkin that was on the table here. Like this is a billion. Yeah.
I know. It doesn't. Our archive is insane. He saved the apparel stuff. He saved newspaper articles. He saved. So when you think about, bringing it back to the hustle, right? When you have that mentality, you're always thinking of the next thing. You're always seeing opportunity in something, and what people don't also see it when it's right in front of them, and that's kind of part of hustling and doing, what others don't do.
And
Um,
by the way, that to talk about the real important parental influence, you saw an opportunity, and the app probably didn't make you $1 billion. Fine,
no,
you're still working. You didn't.
yeah, make us
It's
money.
not what some call fu money, but like it's you had this idea with a bunch of buddies. Let's do it. Can we do it? Most people probably say no. Most people probably say let's not do it. Most people probably do one video and quit at it.
Yeah,
And it is so incredible to me when children are greatly influenced by their parents just to hustle. And it's again, didn't want you to, doesn't say, hey, come and work with me every night or, whatever. So I find that amazing. And then what happened? So now you're at forget about the app, right? The app was a thing. You scratched the itch of entrepreneurship and whatever, and you were early into the apps. I bet you probably feel like you were into the app store early and you should have been able to monetize that better, just like all of us. And like, it's like I get all these ads for the basketball that comes with the app to teach your kid how to dribble.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, I should have thought of that.
I know, right? All
I
the
should have thought of
AI.
that. Hey, parents, you don't want your kids sitting in front of the TV? Let's do a basketball and get them to dribble. And here we're gonna collab with a company that does a thing on the floor so it doesn't drive you nuts. Like, whatever, fine. I don't want to dwell on my own entrepreneurial misery, but What happened next? What
Yeah,
what
so
what what was the itch?
yeah, yeah, I was at EY for about 6.5 years, and I was always interested in learning different skill sets, right, and keeping my skills sharp. It was kind of what I've always learned from basketball, right? Like you need to hone in on your skills and what you want to develop and what your passion is. And I wasn't always getting what my passion was at my 9 to 5. So I always, and whether I wanted to learn something, whether it was how to build a website, how to build an app, like I wasn't necessarily learning specific things in the roles that I had at EY. Now, what's good was I was learning kind of in theory how to approach a project. I was always in digital technology, always building products, but I was building products for financial advisors. I wasn't building products, the ones that I wanted to build personally. So I always just looked outside of work to do my own thing. And what was funny is back then, which out of school, I was 2012, 2013, doing stuff outside of work was not really accepted at all. It's definitely more accepted now just because I think the nature of social media and having multiple incomes,
It was, I think it was shunned on.
it was
Like, what do you mean? You have your job and that's your job. And what are you
yeah,
doing?
yeah, well, I'm paying you and wait, your focus is elsewhere. So I had to kind of jump a lot of hurdles. Now I didn't care because my personality was always I what I started learning is I when I talked about it, it started to become interesting. I actually even gave a presentation at EY on the app that I did because people were just they wanted to do it themselves, to your point, but they just never did it because whether they thought it would impact their career or their job, or they just didn't have the time, or whatever the case may be. So I was at EY for about 6.5 years. I then got poached by a client. So one of my biggest clients was Morgan Stanley at the time. So a lot of the consulting work I was doing was Morgan at the time. I was also developing a family. I got married, and they have an office in Purchase area, which is right next to my house. So I transitioned. It was more money, a different role, and I just wanted something different. Change of pace. So I was at Morgan for about 2.5 years. During that time, I then started my second business, which was a men's dress sock business called Ballatello. I
Love
did
this.
I did it with
Love
my
it.
my best friend from home since first grade. His name is Robbie Baldino, and again, it was just he came to me. Now, what started happening was a lot of my friends were coming to me of, wait, I have a business idea. I don't know what to do. Mickey started something. Whether it was to your point, extremely successful. I didn't sell it for $1 million or anything like that, but I knew the steps to take in order to get an LLC, do your taxes, set up a website, build whatever the case may be. So my buddy was in between jobs and he's like, listen, I want to do something in fashion. I had this idea. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm down. As long as the idea is good, I don't really personally have a particular industry. I thrive off of like passion and a good idea and making it happen. I'm more about the journey and taking something from nothing and actually putting it into existence. Because what I've learned is, and I think people don't realize this, when you actually put yourself out there, whether it be your brand, whether it be a company, whether it be whatever it is, things just happen. I recently started a lot of posting on LinkedIn. People are reaching out to me. Things like these are happening. And so you don't realize when you put stuff into existence, things start to
That
roll.
is keep hustling.
Yeah,
Keep
yeah,
hustling and it comes. Keep.
yeah, and you never
Keep is
know.
important. Keep is as important as hustling.
100%. And you never know when your previous hustle actually you cash in on, right? There's certain things that you do 3 years ago that doesn't
Preach.
come into fruition until
Preach.
now, right? So my buddy approached me. He's like, I want to do something in fashion. I want to like a brand. I was like, dude, we know nothing about fashion, but again, same story. I'm 100% down.
We know nothing, but
Yeah,
that's a
we
good
know
thing.
nothing, but that's a good thing, right? And then I was like, well, listen, we can't go start making Italian suits. I was like, we know nothing of anything about this industry, manufacturing, whatever. So we were like, what's the easiest thing to start with? Socks. You don't need as much inventory. There's not as much size.
Everybody needs them.
Everybody needs them. And in the fashion, in the finance world, people were starting to kind of use their socks as like a fashion statement because everybody had to wear the navy blue suit or the black suit, and there wasn't much kind of fashion that you can present at work, and socks were the thing. So I remember I was in a meeting one time with a bunch of executives, and everybody has their legs kind of crossed up, and I just see like 3 or 4 executives have these crazy socks. I'm like, wow, there's something different here. This is kind of a trend. So that's kind of what set us off. And we did a subscription company. So every month you got a different design. We went on to partner with 5 NFL athletes, a couple of guys on the Giants, Charles James, who was on the Texans. We actually got him because we literally reached out on Twitter for Hard Knocks. He was known for his socks, and we literally cold DM'd him on Twitter, and we got a deal with him, and he was doing stuff with us, and that was a really fun, cool company just to learn. We built our own Shopify site. We also, funny story, we did all of our content for like $400. We went into Grand Central and did a day in the city and got 3 models. One of them was my buddy from my basketball team. Another one was one of my friend's buddy, and then the third one didn't show up. So in pure fashion from my partner, people were coming off the train in Grand Central, and we were like, "Shit, we need 3 people to get certain shots." He literally offered some guy $20 to come in and spend like 20 minutes with us, and it became the
Try on a pair of socks.
Yeah, we gave him a pair of socks, and then we were taking shots on like the shoe shiner, and that was like our hero image for the site. So again, you just make things happen, things fall through, and you gotta solve problems. So that was a great experience that I did at the same time as EY and Morgan Stanley, and then I actually ended up selling. I used to sell socks out of my desk at Morgan, and so I always just brought it in and infused all the things that I had going on with, because that's your story, right? Like it is what it is. Like they're not separate; they're together because it's who I am. So
What do you think is the biggest thing that stands in people's way of doing that, of taking that leap, of younger people, like, or even older people who are in the consulting field are doing that for 20 years, but they have an idea and they just, for some reason, people just don't do it. And I can't,
yeah,
that's what I'm trying to get at here is like
yeah,
in this journey
tough.
is just
Everybody's
do it.
different.
Like, why? Just do it. And again, I'm not, I say this all the time. I'm not saying that people should take every last cent that they've ever accumulated in their life and not have not have a roof over their for their wife and kids. That's not what I'm saying. But 90% of ideas, like the sock business, if someone comes up with a corollary idea, the average working person can do it. Can do
Yeah,
it.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Listen, I think people are definitely scared. I think the first excuse that probably will a lot of people will have, which is at certain points valid. To your point, is money. Like, could you just potentially quit and kind of sustain whatever the lifestyle is that you have? If you have a family, obviously that creates a little different nuance to it. It's funny. I was always in that pickle too, like whether to go full force on things. And I got married a little bit earlier, I had kid earlier, so there was definitely, to be honest, too, fear there, right? What is going to bring it in, right? It takes time for things to develop. Seeing your bank account go down of all the savings that you had from whatever the first job you hit, it's a tough thing to swallow, right? So I think a little bit of that's probably a number one fear of people. I think too, people get in their own head and they don't potentially know what the right step is or next step is, or they pretty much quit when the first wall they hit, right? And they think, oh, this is maybe too hard or too difficult. You just got to keep going, and the hardest thing is consistency, right? And that's with everything. But I mean, it sounds cliche, but the more you keep going, the more you keep doing it, the more doors that are open. And listen, most likely you will fail. And I think if you know that and come to terms with that, that's okay, right? But I've now accumulated so much knowledge from even the One Basketball, my first startup, my corporate experience. So I'm always thinking about, like, if it's not this one, it's the next one, right? It's almost like going back to basketball. Just because I miss a shot, I'm not going to go quit and not continue my career. I'm going to take 5 more shots until one goes in. And maybe
And
that's
by the way, when you hit the game-winning shot, you remember them, and nobody really cares, and you don't really care. Meaning,
exactly.
if you're supposed to fail, quote unquote, and then you actually succeed, large or small, you've outperformed your own thoughts.
100%.
So
100%.
I just I agree with you. I think that people at a certain point just have to do. And
Do
by
it.
the way, it's not for everyone. Some people say like they want to be the best attorney that's ever lived at a buttoned up law firm, wearing a suit but wearing funky socks, or doing things like that, or loud ties, and that's fine too. I hope that what we're, like you said, it was taboo or
Yeah.
cliche when you and I were starting our careers.
Yeah.
But I just hope that people are at least attempting to chase their dreams a little bit more than they were before. And that's really what Keep Hustling is about. I want to ask you one more question about what you're currently doing.
Yeah.
And that is, I know that you're working in technology at Ralph Lauren and doing things like that. Obviously, global brand, old school brand, known brand, established. What do you think is the biggest opportunity for young people who may say that it's not worth it to go and engage with or work for or work at those old school brands? Meaning, I'd rather just work at Google or work at the hip startup or work at Apple because that's, or the company, or the newer fashion brands because they have nap pods and kombucha and matcha, rather than like, there's also a unique opportunity, I think, and you're living proof of it, that you can, obviously companies have to want to engage with the next
Of course.
generation,
Of course. Yeah.
but like bridging that old school and new school.
Yeah, 100%. And I think technology does that, especially in my world, right? Because technology is everywhere and innovation is everywhere. And I think that's something that what has been pleasantly surprised in my transition from finance to, let's call it, the retail fashion world is I actually think in the finance world I was always interested in innovation, and just given the regulatory environment and certain restrictions that they always had, it's actually harder to innovate in some of those areas, more specifically the finance. Obviously, Amazon, Google, Facebook, those are the biggest innovative companies that are driving the path forward. But what you come to realize is that technology is infused in every business, right? And with technology comes innovation. So with all these bigger brands, I was really pleasantly surprised and happy that when I made the leap, I just couldn't do finance anymore. I just wanted something different. I think I came to terms with and understood what I wanted more, right? And what I valued more. I actually took a pay cut in between two jobs to come to Ralph. One, just because um, my experience throughout my career is that the people that you work for is just as important sometimes than also the work you're doing, because that's who's going to shape your personality, your career, and ultimately be where you want to go. So going into to retail and the fashion, I think for the younger generation, with all these AI tools coming out, with all this technology that's there, every company has to be on notice, because brands like ourselves have to prepare for the future and what we call the next generation of consumers, right? And learning how they're going to adapt their shoppability or how they interact with different companies. So ultimately, a lot of these bigger brands, especially the ones such as RL and others, they have to do this type of work to stay relevant. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for the younger generation to try different things, and there is opportunity in other places than typical industries that maybe people that we grew up on. So I think there's lead with passion, lead with interest, and try, especially when you're younger, try it out, right? Like, you have so much opportunity to change your career. If I ever thought I'd be working at RL, if you asked me coming out of school, I would say absolutely not. I don't see where my path would ever take me there. But it was a bottle of wine at night looking to get out of finance. And actually, what got me into RL was I was heavy into crypto. I was an early miner of Bitcoin. I have a funny Italian mother story on that one of why I'm not filthy rich on Bitcoin. But I was looking for more Web3 crypto. RL came up and I was surprised. And I was like, hey, I have a couple polos. I was just shooting off resumes on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is your friend for also the next generation. That's a huge hustle that people can take advantage of on finding the next opportunity and in networking with people that are in the position you eventually want to be. And that's how I actually came to RL. I had kind of a reflection point of what I wanted, and then started searching out there brands that I felt would fit my interest in terms of the work that I actually wanted to do. So I think it's I think it's kind of a couple of that, of really understanding what you want, but for the next generation, just try things, right? You'll start learning quickly what you don't want to do, which is sometimes just as important of what you do want to do. So um, I think that's a great place for people to start.
100%. And I think also when you talk about the old school brands, what's amazing is I think these, when a brand realizes, an established brand realizes that they want to modernize or they want to engage with the next generation consumer, there's so few expectations.
Yeah.
But if you're at one of these super innovative companies, you have to come up with the craziest, most innovative, implanting a chip in the person's head, in the sweat. Here it's like, I say this about our company. My father, he should rest in peace, started our business in December 2nd, 1968. We were all paper files until 2016, 2000, and my mother, I work with every single day. She prints more paper than most people in a week than most people do in their lifetime. But it's like, you come with an idea, it's low hanging fruit. If it works, you're a genius. And if it doesn't, they told you it wasn't going to work anyway. They told you you were an idiot anyway. So it doesn't really matter. And the business moves without it. So I love that. I love your story. I love the fact that you've never settled, and it seems like you're just when you get the itch, you scratch it, and you don't just
Yeah,
let something go by. And I would say again, I really think that comes from your father. Gosh, original performance of Run DMC, Wu Tang. Gosh, I'm from New York. East Coast rap. It's like
yeah,
hip
yeah.
hop. As much as people think I'm not into it, it's one of my.
Everybody that came through New York went through. We have pictures of LL Cool J at 16 years old,
Oh,
and again, like I think what you learn is what I learned from him was, especially with the hustle that separates you, is the devil's in the detail, right? Like the people that focus on the detail and craft their experience and craft their skill set. Like he was the guy that went into his bar, and if there was a napkin on the floor, like he picked it up, right? And if there was a candle that he felt wasn't in the right place, or the lighting wasn't right to set the mood for all the consumers, he was so consumer centric too, which is funny that when you come into the industrial world, that's literally the business that everybody's in. So what you learn too in entrepreneurship is don't overcomplicate things, because in a way you just have to try stuff. And I think what I've learned, the difference between, or what helped me from the entrepreneurial side and the corporate side, is sometimes because the companies are so big and matrixed, and we tend to overcomplicate stuff. And when you're an entrepreneur, you have to be the marketer, you're the tax guy, you're the website developer, and you just kind of figure it out. And there's a beauty in that, right? Because you don't hone on a decision too long. You have to make, there's also nobody to look around to, right? I always did stuff
yep.
with partners, which was great, and learned a lot there too, because there's always friction points, and working with other people, especially friends, is always hard. But I think there's a beauty in the entrepreneurial side that for the younger generation, it's also a lot more commoditized now, right? I mean, look what happens on Instagram. You can be a success overnight and make $2 million off of something that you get famous
Nothing
for, and
off
nothing.
of nothing.
Yeah, but it starts with putting yourself out there, right, and making that first piece. And something that I struggle with is I'm a perfectionist, and I talk about this with Mario Trot all the time. It's you know that I think that's a sense of what holds people back indirectly too, of like, oh, that video needs to be perfect, or I have a certain look and feel, and I see, and I follow all the Gary V's, I follow all these podcasts, and everybody does something in such a great way, right? Everything's like edited to the point, and but for the people that don't have those
Go
resources.
back and look at their first videos.
Exactly, right? But the technology is now caught up, especially with all this AI.
100%.
You can
100%.
you can do so much yourself. So um, I think that's what I think is great for people to, just going back to our previous conversations of just getting started. The tools are there for you to do it. Like look at ChatGPT and producing content. Like you can use so much that can enhance you, that the barrier to entry is much lower. Now that makes the competition higher, but that's where finding your niche and finding your passion has always been my struggle, because I'm a scatterbrain. I'm like a Gary Vee type.
We couldn't tell from basketball, consulting,
Exactly.
socks to Ralph Lauren. Sure, it was a natural progression.
Exactly.
I, I love your story, and thank you. Really, thank you for sharing. Thank you for inspiring. We'll put your contact information in the show notes. Everyone should definitely reach out to you. We have a closing tradition on this podcast. We ask our guests to leave us with their favorite motivational, inspirational quote and what it means to their hustle. So, with that, I'll turn the floor back over to you and say, Mickey, thank you again for being here. Thank you for rescheduling from both of us. And I'm now that we've had the conversation, I'm really happy that we made it happen. So, thank
Yes,
you.
this is awesome. Pleasure for being here, and thank you for having me. And my favorite quote is, "It all started with a mouse," to bring it back to Disney. And the reason why I love it is because the biggest idea can start from such a small thing, and you never know where the opportunity is going to take you. And the world is your oyster, and you can really make something out of nothing, and really bring something. Disney is a huge passion of mine, just from a company perspective, because when you go into that park, to think that it just started with a drawing of a mouse and is servicing so many different consumers and bringing so many different smiles, that just inspires me. So that's one of my favorite quotes.
I hope you become the CEO of Disney one day. We're going to play this.
Yes.
And I usually just totally trail off with a quote, but you brought this story out of me. I've been waiting. I've been holding this amazing story. My father had an acquaintance who was one of the largest shareholders of Berkshire Hathaway.
Oh, wow.
And every year we don't do his insurance. Maybe one day we will. And every year, apparently he flew in and he had breakfast with Warren Buffett. And everybody knows that Warren Buffett goes to the same diner and has the same thing every single day for breakfast. And they're sitting in his diner. True story. This guy, Warren Buffett, and an older lady walks over to Warren Buffett, let's say a middle-aged lady, and she says to him, "I'm so sorry, Mr. Buffett, for bothering you. People probably annoy you all the time, but I can't be in the same place as you and not ask you this question. I just had my first grandchild, and I want to buy them a couple shares in a company, just because that's what I want the gift to be. What company should I buy them shares in?" And the guy said, without batting an eyelash, Warren Buffett looks at this lady right in the face and says, "Disney. Kids and adults will always love Disney." And that is the beauty of the brand, because people love Disney and people like to rail on Disney and say that it's too expensive. There's that. Everybody loves Disney. And I can't wait, Mickey, till you become the Mickey. It started with a mouse, it gets to Mickey. And I want a flight on, there's got to be a very cool Disney private jet, sick Disney private jet. I want a flight on it.
Yes, and if they don't have one, we'll make sure we get one and we'll do it.
Awesome, you got it. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good, and always keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. If you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.